Hey guys, this is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. Thanks for tuning in. So I'm coming back to you guys with another Crown Victoria rebuild project update video. And this video, it's pretty intensive. I actually decided to spray paint the car. And yes, that is correct. I decided to spray paint the car. If you watch this series, I've been doing this for a few months now. I actually went earlier this year and I picked up a 2008 Crown Victoria Police Interceptor from a Sacramento police auction, and I bought it sight unseen. I got the car for $1,500. At this point, with all the parts that are into it, it's about a $3,200 car. The Crown Vic that I picked up is about 120,000 miles with the hours at 350 hours, and the odometer was slightly under 100,000. I also was able to obtain all of the maintenance records for this vehicle through a Freedom of Information Act request. So I know everything that's wrong with this car, and I'm very happy with that. So I've been driving it for a few months. I've got a few thousand miles on it, and this car is incredibly solid. So I decided, I found this Duplicolor Perfect Match paint, and everybody says you can't do a spray paint job on a car. And when people tell me that I can't do something, it just gives me more incentive to try it. Maybe it's part of having this YouTube channel that I feel like I have to partake in just trying to do it. So I decided I'm going to test a panel with this Duplicolor. I'm not going to spray the whole car and find out the color is just way off. So I went to the auto parts store, picked up a $10 can, sprayed it out, and I looked at the color and thought, like, man, this is really incredibly close for a car that's 10 years old. It's a metallic paint. It's called Arizona Beige. It matched incredibly well. So I decided, you know what, this is worth a shot. So I reached out to Summit Racing and said, hey, I appreciate the support you guys have given me in this project up to date. Would you guys be interested in carrying on the sponsorship further? And they said, sure. So I decided that it would be a great opportunity to try and just spray this whole car with spray paint and see what happened. So over Memorial Day weekend, I decided Friday night, I'm going to prep the car. And I'm going to show you some clips as I'm explaining what I did, but at the very tail end of this, I'm just going to include a time lapse, 2 to 3 minutes of just the entire process of painting the car, so you can really see all the steps that I took and the mistakes that I've made, because there certainly are some mistakes, and that's going to happen. So what I did was Friday night, I decided I'm going to take a time to really prep this car and get it to the point where Saturday morning I can come out and start sanding and getting everything where it needed to be. I got everything laid out, ready to go. I taped off the car, and then I got to Bondo. And this is my first humbling experience. This is where I learned that auto body shops that do this constantly, they certainly know what they're doing when it comes to mixing Bondo. What I didn't know was how to mix the hardener and how much hardener to mix in, so I did too much. And the Bondo was just basically, it was getting hard on the board, and I was having a hard time getting it to spread appropriately, and it turned into, instead of slowing down, kind of a panic and trying to work through it, where I should have just probably stopped and tried to refigure out what I was doing. I just tried to kind of rough through it, and as I was kind of spreading it out, it was just going on thick. It was hardening up real quick, and I created myself just a sanding mess. And I'm sure body shop guys would laugh at me and say, rookie mistake, but I wanted to give it a shot. I gave it a shot. Saturday morning, I came out and started hitting it harder with the sanding, and it took hours. It was probably 2-3 hours of sanding and just trying to get the surface smooth. I thought that I did a good job. Could have done better, but again, keep in mind the dollar value of the car. I wasn't trying to get a show car finish out of a spray paint job. Not my intention. My intention was to get better than a 10-foot paint job. I wanted something that people would walk up to and say, are you kidding? That's spray paint? If you look at it, you know it's spray paint. So I didn't really meet my goal, but I'm kind of conflicted. It could have been worse, but it could have certainly been better. So what happened was I got in next to the primer, and I did use a self-etching primer because for the most part, a lot of the panels were kind of exposed steel or just that factory e-coating, they call it, which is it's not a primer, but it's just a coating that they put on at the factory from these panels to prevent rusting. and I sprayed all the panels, including the plastic bumper and the fiberglass header panel, with this self-etching primer. Primer actually looked really good. When I sprayed the primer, I thought, this is really in good shape. Now, I went through 12 cans of color on this car, and understand, I painted the hood on these cars is pretty enormous. I would say probably 5 cans went into covering that hood and trying to get good coverage, because with spray paint, what you're trying to prevent is really the tiger striping that you can see from the lines that you spray. So my thought process was make sure you have really good coverage and try to cover up any spots that might show that tiger striping. So I did. I laid down the 12 cans between the hood, the fender, the header panel, and the bumper. So kind of a lot of area to cover. I might have went too heavy with the paint. I'm not too sure. I might have blew down 2 to 3 cans too much, which could have caused me problems at the end, which I'll get into. But either way, I just wanted to use the paint that I had. I also went through 16 cans of clear, and I think a lot of people are going to say that's way too much clear. Again, understand these are only 8-ounce cans. They're not, larger size spray cans. But I wanted to blow down all 16 cans of that clear, and the reason for that is because I know spray paint is not going to go on smooth. I know that it's going to be very difficult to get the spray paint back. So I wanted to leave plenty of clear coat to be able to sand down to get it to be a really, really nice finish. So that's exactly what I did. I covered this thing with 16 cans of clear and made sure it was in great shape. And one thing I have to say is that if you read reviews on this Duplicolor product, or really any spray paint in general, if you don't spend a lot of time with it after you're done with it, it's not going to look great. And the reason for that is that as you're spraying, every line that you're spraying down on these panels is overspraying everything next to it. So you get a really hazy look on everything. The clear coat, by the time it was done, was in pretty rough shape, I would say. I mean, it wasn't something you could drive down the road and people would even think that it was clear coated. So I knew I was going to have to just really sand the crap out of this thing to get it to look shiny as it was supposed to. So I was prepared for that. I also ordered a Griot's Garage buffer, and I was really between a Harbor Freight buffer or this Griot's Garage, and I decided to go with the Griot's mainly because I figured if I need to spend time making this surface look as good as I possibly can, I'm going to need a good quality buffer. So I ordered that from Amazon. Now, this is where things went off the rail with my paint job. I sprayed the car on Saturday. I let it sit all day on Sunday. I didn't want to touch the paint. I left it in the garage. I didn't expose it to any sunlight. I wanted to let this thing cure. They say 24 to 48 hours before you wet sand, so I wanted to push the limits. Now, I had to drive the car to work on Tuesday, so I really was left with trying to get this car finished out on Memorial Day, which was fine. That's what I was prepared for. So what I had done was I had all the stuff ready for wet sanding, and I started going at that. But what I had done was I also pulled the car out of the garage, and this is where things got bad. As soon as the sun hit it, and I actually pulled it out so I can get some video before and after, I noticed on the hood there was a couple spots that started to bubble. And what they're doing is, I believe it's peeling off of the Bondo. Now, I know a guy that has done some body work and was talking about Bondo can off-gas for days and it probably should have sat there longer. And, I'm not sure how this whole process works. I've never done it before. So this is all part of, if you're going to get into this, how does it work? I'm kind of going based on just things that I'm being told. So it's starting to bubble underneath the hood. And when I saw that, I kind of right then and there decided, all right, I'm going to work to get this surface shiny, but if the whole thing's just going to bubble up and peel, I'm not going to kill myself getting it to an incredible shine and spend all this time, really spit shining this thing to a crystal clear polish, because it's a waste of my time if first time I get on the highway, the paint blows off the hood going down the road. So for me, it was just at that point, let's just try to salvage it the best we can, get it to look respectable and see how it weathers. Now, as I'm recording this video, it's Wednesday, so the car's actually been on the road for 2 days now and exposed to sunlight all day long. It's actually been, I've had to take it on 2 long road trips actually in the last 2 days for work. And the bubbling, it stopped, but it got worse before it got better. It's never going to get better. So where do I stand now, and what would my recommendation be to anybody else looking to maybe spray paint their car? I would not say don't do it. I would say know when to stop and when it's appropriate and when it's not. I would not expect to spray an entire car and have the whole thing come out great. My experience has been that basically vertical surfaces are fine. Horizontal surfaces on that big hood that's going to be just in direct sunlight, I think, is probably part of the reason why it's peeling. And it's also a lot harder to get that horizontal surface that's taking direct light to look flat, I guess you'd say. And I can probably hit it a little bit more with sanding, but if you did a whole car with it, you'd be sanding forever. And I'm not sure that would be the appropriate way to handle painting a car. But if this car only required a fender in the bumper and the header panel and the hood wasn't involved, that all turned out really great. I'm beyond thrilled with how that it looks, actually. To be honest with you, I'm not sure you could tell it was a spray paint job versus a real job. Somebody who knows what they're looking at probably could. If I spent a little more time buffing it out, you really could challenge somebody on that. So for me, I think what I'm going to do, and I still have to kick around some ideas, and let me know what you think in the comments down below. Anybody out there that says that this car is not worth a full like $1,200 paint job, I'm just going to tell you that you're wrong. I mean, the car is running incredibly strong. It's got 100,000 miles on it, and it has a few years of life left in it. But would it be worth it? Maybe. So I'm really not too sure which way I'm going to go with it. I personally would really like to throw a legit paint job at the whole car. I think it's worth it. So I'm still trying to feel my way around this car, and it's been an absolute pleasure. I mean, I love this car. I'm having so much fun driving it. It's an American V8, rear-wheel drive. It's big. It's got power on the highway. It's not going to win any races off the line or anything, but it's really a fun car to drive, and I think there's a lot of potential with this thing. I'm going to go ahead and just jump you right into the time lapse. You can see the process really from the beginning to end of me painting the car. So again, if this is your first time tuning in, please click that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel, and I will see you guys next time.